today's show. And that is, again, Lakeydra Houston. She is a United States Air Force veteran. She did 57 years. She looks good. No, she did 20 years. She's appeared on Dateline, right? Dateline show. She's also an inspirational and motivational speaker. Lakeydra, welcome to Unarmored Talk podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. Sorry about the 57 years, but can you tell the listeners and viewers just a little bit about yourself?
So like you said, I retired 20 years, and I actually retired last year, 2022. And so I decided to go ahead and start, once I got out the military, start walking into, I call it my purpose, right? So it's kind of, I'm out here trying to figure out who I am as a veteran, because, serving a long time, you're struggling with identity.
Right.
But the good thing about it is that, what you go through in life, you can share with others and you can help build them up. So that's my purpose right now, to build others up. So I'm enjoying it. I'm ready to go.
You've built me up already. We haven't even got into a very very challenging topic, if you will, and I will share this with everyone before we jump into the topic. Be aware there may be some triggers in this discussion, and I thank you, Lakeydra, for doing this. Also, this is April, which is a National Child Abuse Prevention Month, to bring awareness to the impacts of child abuse and really to prevent it, right? Let's reduce these very, very detrimental behaviors that adults will display, if you will, towards children and the impact. And so let's jump right into the topic. From my basic understanding, Lakeydra, as a child, you experienced some type of abuse.
Yeah. So, as a child, I grew up in a home, a Christian family home. And, it was a great atmosphere, during that time. It was a great atmosphere. I enjoyed it. And I was raised by my grandparents. So I was the only one basically living in the house that wasn't theirs. So during that time, I was about 6 years old when my first assault happened. And
Wow.
so I didn't I didn't understand what it was. I just was shocked. As you're a child, your body you're just stuck. You don't know what to do. And then so you pretend like everything's okay. You're crying because of the pain or whatever. And it actually was a family member that did it the first time. And so it was, hey, if you say something, you're going to be in trouble. If you say something, I'm going to kill you. Like, you better not say anything. So I had to walk around with fear. And so I started acting out, around 6, 7 years old in school, just because I was dealing with so much. So when my abuse happened, I was so scared to tell anybody, but at the same time, I didn't know if it was right or wrong. So I just kind of I'm gonna say okay with it, but I just let it continue to happen.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a point where I could scream. As a child, you have the fear, and then it's a relative that a lot of people respect. And so that was the first incident, and then it continued happening with his brother. And so now I have 2 people on me. I don't know what's going on, and I'm 6, and it happened all the way to the age of 11 years old. When it got to the point where it was almost became rape, because it was more of touching, fondling, those things. I moved, thank God that my grandmother, stepped in, and she didn't know what was going on, but she knocked on the door. And that's when he got up, and we just pretended like nothing happened, because I knew if I said something, I would die. That was my first mindset. So I kept it a secret for a long time and battled with depression and everything, getting acted up in church, school, everywhere. But it made me, I was losing it. At 6, your mind is going crazy. You don't know. Yeah. So that's how everything started. So.
And no, thank you for having the courage to remove your armor, as I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you started acting out, right? Like in school and church, because of this trauma.
Mm-hmm.
When you say that, like, what were you being, disrespectful, or what was happening?
So the first thing is I was angry. So what got to a point where I was disrespectful, I would talk in class because it was like I felt like I couldn't be heard. So I would
Mm,
just talking and rambling around in class and, screaming, trying to crack jokes. I would be in church, have to be pulled in the back row to the front row, those things, because I needed to get it out and I didn't know how to. But the thing about it is, when I look back now, it was a grooming process that started. And a lot of people don't realize, when it comes to child abuse, the little things that people say is grooming, whether it's, hey, you're such a beautiful child. And in the back of their head, they're thinking, okay, I want to lay with this child, or I'm having sexual feelings about this child. That's what was happening to me.
wow.
So it was, when people at church or school would say you're beautiful, I would be like, okay, they're going to touch me next, because every
Wow.
time I hear that, that's what happens. So it was me dressing in baggy clothes, me, covering up. I was humpback for a while because I didn't want people to look at my body at all. So it really took a toll on me. But yeah.
Mm. And how many people thought you were just a bad child, right? You're just a wayward child. What is wrong with Lakeydra? She
Yeah.
needs more Jesus. Which
Yeah.
how
It
many
was,
did you experience that?
yeah, it was a lot. A lot of people didn't tell me. They're just like, oh, she's just acting like a normal child and those things. But nobody sat down and asked me, like, hey, what was going on? Like, are you hurting, or is it your whole mood has changed? When I talk to family now, they're like, oh, well, we didn't really pay attention. We just thought that you were just acting wild. But I'm like, the signs were there. Like, I would run across the street and say, somebody's beating me, or little silly things just to get out the house, because I know those guys were there. But nobody sat down and asked me what was going on or took me to a safe place. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle.
Mm. And do you believe that if just one adult, someone would have said, Lakeydra, you gotta, what is really going on?
Hmm.
We're noticing things that just kind of are interesting.
Hmm.
Talk to me. What's really happening? Do you think you would have maybe said something at that point?
I definitely think I would have at that point. I would
Mm,
have said something if, and even the signs were there in front of the adults. Like, what grown man comes up to a child and says, you have sexy eyes? Like, oh, I can't wait to,
yeah.
it was the words that were being said. And this is family. So just think about what's outside of, not, people who aren't my family that were saying these things too, that had a chance to do the same thing. So it was just, when you hear those comments, it's not funny to laugh and say, oh, you're just being silly, like, or, oh, that's nasty. Like, stop and talk to them and say, pull me aside and say, hey, did someone do something to you? Because when that was said, I saw your body reaction. I saw how you started crying, so it was, it was different to hear those comments. But this is a time where parents have to pay attention to what's being said in front of them.
Yeah, and I love how you pointed out too the nonverbals.
Hmm.
How powerful being observant of nonverbal communication could actually be an indicate more of an indicator than what's coming out of your mouth.
Correct, correct. And
Mm,
most kids who are abusive, who are abused, is either we run away from the perpetrator. So we always either try to find a way, or they could be, if they're really groomed, they can be lovey-dovey towards the perpetrator. So overly affectionate. So those are two things
mm.
we have to look at. And we definitely are missing that as parents. Parents are missing that.
Lakeydra, looking at your profile and getting to know you, of course, I would have never thought. And
Mhm.
I believe there are a lot of adults who are still battling with that childhood abuse and childhood trauma.
Mhm.
What were some of the choices and things that you did that helped you to heal and thrive eh, today compared to years ago?
So I'm going to be 100% transparent. I forgave. Forgiveness was the key to me letting go, because I held it on, and joining the military was my way to get away from it. But I was running away from it, not dealing with it. So when I said, okay, I need to release this so I can have a productive life, to me, that's when things changed. I did forgive my family, because I told them at 13, I did decide to come out to my grandmother. And I said,
Mm,
hey, we saw a show on Oprah that talked about molestation. And I saw this girl and I'm like, that happened to me. I'm 13 and I'm sitting there crying watching this girl like, so that's been wrong the whole time, you know, and this girl confesses, she's telling her perpetrator, like, you know, you're going to jail. And so I said, okay, this is going to happen to me. As soon as I expose it, they're going to go to jail so they won't hurt anybody else. And the exact opposite happened. It was like, hush, you know, do you think it really happened or were you making it up? And it was just family members all abroad were saying that because of the type of reputation those family members had. So they didn't think it would happen. So I had to forgive my family, release them for not believing me. I had to release the people who did it to me and just myself because I blamed myself for it. You know, if I wasn't sexy, think about 6 years old. If I wasn't sexy, nobody would touch me, but you're 6. You're not sexy, you know? So I had to forgive, and forgiveness is what started it all.
That is powerful. And it's amazing how you know, like you said, at an early age, you know, the word sexy or beautiful actually had a negative, meaning to you. So you started to do things that were opposite. You know, if, like you said, if they're saying I'm sexy and they're tying these behaviors, then I'm going to wear baggy clothes and I'm going to, you know, mess up my hair or whatever. And just the impact, and then the choices you made, to the power of forgiveness. You know, how you just, like you say, you chose to forgive so you can move forward in life.
Yeah.
Looking back, and again, I don't want to go too far back, but looking back and where you are today, if you had to give 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of advice to someone who's going to watch this episode, and they're going to say, that's me, what would you tell them?
The first thing I'll say, it is not your fault. Whatever happened to you is not your fault. And sometimes life happens to us. It doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. So whenever you're ready to release it, whenever you're ready to share it, because a lot of people need to hear this story. A lot of people are not talking. So when you're ready to share it, that's the second thing. When you're ready to share it to help others. Our lives are meant to help others. Sometimes it's not just meant for us to just live here and walk around. Everyone has a purpose. Your purpose is to make sure the next person next to you, you give them a hand up and you help them, you know, understand what's going on, whether you use your story or other things. But that's the big thing we have to make sure we do. You have to, I say, pay it forward. You have to, any way you can, give back and help others out. But those are the things I would say.
Well, Lakeydra, you have definitely been doing that, and I know there's a lot more in the future for you. You've inspired me and motivated me, and I believe there's a lot of people who want to find you and maybe ask you questions or get advice. How can people find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Lakeydra Houston, Lakeydra Houston, like the city, or you can find me on Instagram, Girl Vet Travels. That's the one I use, and I have, like, you know, survivors. I call it Survivor's Journey. Yeah. So it talks about some positive things, but you can definitely find me, or you can email me at info@keyfit.life.
Well, everyone, you guys heard it from Lakeydra Houston. Again, thank you so much from the Unarmored Talk podcast team, which is me and my wife. But you know what? It doesn't matter how many people. It matters what choices you make, and like you just demonstrated in this episode, the choices you have made have been an impact on many, and I believe will be an impact on many to come. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you guys in a couple of weeks. Again, please share this video, support our National Child Abuse Prevention Awareness Month, if you will, and let's all work together globally to reduce these behaviors that prevents a child from developing and growing in a very, very prosperous environment. Again, see you guys in 2 weeks. God bless you. Be safe. And thank you again, Lakeydra. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.